I want to point out it's my first time posting on Reddit, and this will probably be a very long post. I have known my husband since 2002. We were friends, but not close. We met on the internet, and while he expressed interest in dating me, I could not stand being in the same room with him for more than an hour. He came across as self-absorbed, and the conversation was only one way. He always emailed me with some drama revolving around whatever relationship he had going on. I always gave advice. I was friendly, but kept him at bay. However, I responded at length because I love helping people and I am an empathetic person. He is a very accomplished person career-wise and makes close to $500,000 a year. But he did not have many friends, if any, and his personal life seemed to be a disaster. He is generous to the people around him, including strangers, and often helps people financially without asking for anything in return. Or so I thought. He is good to his employee and treats them like family. He is actually an ideal employer and is generous with leave and sick time, allowing employees to telecommute if need be. While these qualities sound wonderful, I cannot be with someone who does not know how to carry on a conversation, and while he's generous with money, he was too, look at me, based. I also discovered he cheated on women with escorts. Fast forward to the end of 2014. We had lost contact for several years, and he was a recluse during the time we lost contact. I have never asked him for anything as a friend, and I still like to email on occasion as I do all of my friends. I finally heard from him and found out that his second marriage was coming to an end. I had just gotten out of an 11-year relationship, which ended amicably, and I invited him to visit me on the West Coast. He lives east. We spent Thanksgiving and Christmas together, in which he still drove me nuts with talking about himself ad nauseum. I was still unsure about dating him, but during this time, I was having health and financial issues and felt desperate in a way I had not really experienced before. Please do not judge unless you have been there. We spent New Year's together, and a few days later, we finally became intimate. It was the sex that won me over, and from that point on, we were inseparable. I found out shortly after that he had slept with another woman over the holidays. While we were not technically an item, I felt deeply hurt and distrustful from that point on, and I allowed this act to color how I felt about him. I also found out he cheated on his second wife with escorts. But because of how he painted his ex as a horrible person who abused him, I dismissed it as she probably deserved it. The person who he slept with while I was trying to get to know him on another level is the same women he cheated with behind his wife's back. I could never understand how he could go back to someone who was associated with the demise of his marriage. He never gave the same reason as to why he did it again. It ran the gamut from simply being horny to feeling lonely to feeling rejected by me because I didn't reciprocate fast enough or in a manner he perceived as into him. When my previous relationship ended, I had signed up for college with a major in broadcast journalism. I did not know how I was going to complete college because I suffer from a lifelong battle with ulcerative colitis. It was severe at this point, and I only had Medi-Cal coverage. But I was determined to try, and it would help keep my mind occupied in a healthy way after the breakup. Because my then boyfriend lived long distance, we agreed that I would drop out, and he would help me out financially every month. That way we would be able to fly back and forth without college interfering. Knowing his cheating background, I proposed we have an open relationship until he decided he was sure about us because I didn't want to be cheated on. I was in fear that I would give him my heart and he would break it by cheating. A little background, I am friends with most of my exes, and cheating has only been an issue with a few. But I still have a thing about being crushed by infidelity because when I give myself to someone, I give 150%. And I wanted it to be reciprocal. The first year of the relationship was spent in chaos because of his ex-wife. I asked him if I could stay at a hotel because I did not feel comfortable living with another woman's clothes and belongings. She is a hoarder, and he claimed his lawyer advised him not to move her stuff. He also said he was running out of money from legal fees and that he couldn't afford a hotel. I begrudgingly stayed at his house, looking at another woman's stuff day in and day out. He would come home from work and talk about her and his divorce, day in and day out. I grew resentful, and this resentment was the cause of many fights. By this time, my stomach condition only found relief through pain meds, which I'd never been addicted before him, and I found the numbing effect helped me cope with the chaos of his divorce. Out of frustration and boredom, and wanting to create something new and beautiful for us, I threw out the things I was allowed to throw out. I ended up cleaning up after another woman. I soon became angry that he spent time in his garage building things while I spent time in the house going through another woman's stuff. I even asked myself, why does he find this acceptable? When I should have been asking myself, why do I found this acceptable? I spent all of my time decorating what I could and poring over design magazines. My friends remarked that the house was starting to look different, and the feedback was glowing and positive. During this first year together, I also accompanied him shopping and helped him pick out a new wardrobe. Additionally, he accompanied me to my salon where I suggested he consult with a stylist about a makeover. And voila, the difference was astounding. New hair, new clothes, he loved it. But alas, the person beneath was what really needed to grow and change. During the second year, I had better insurance and was able to get properly diagnosed. I had major surgery scheduled during the fall of 2016, and this created a lot of chaos in our life. The outcome was less than desirable, and to this day, I am still battling with the disastrous results. However, if he was unhappy, I was not aware of it. He continued to put me on a pedestal and speak of me glowingly, and said loving things to me and our mutual friends. He acted the same as he did from the beginning. I continued to decorate the house and be there for him. One thing we like to do together is go to concerts, and he always bought the best tickets, and we always had a blast. In fact, we seem to get along better when we are out of that house than when we are in it. The house was a lot of work, and I felt that the house was like a child with special needs. The next few years was spent going to concerts, traveling, and hanging out with friends and entertaining. I was still working on my health issues. Money was not an issue for us, and he told me to work on healing. Fast forward to my birthday of 2018. After a quiet celebration at home, he fell asleep early, and something told me to look at his phone. What I found shocked me to my core. He had hooked up with a 21-year-old just weeks before my birthday. My heart was beating so fast, I could not breathe. I felt like it was jumping out of my throat. I confronted him, and he made up some lame excuse about how he met her. My gut instinct told me he was lying. After being confronted, he got out of bed and walked towards the door. When I demanded to know where he was going, he turned to me, looked me right in the eye, and said, "You've always said that if I did it again, we're done," and proceeded to open the door. I was floored. I could not believe this person I thought I knew could be so cold and callous. The lack of empathy was unbelievable. I would not allow him to leave, and for 3 days we fought on and off, with me doing most of the shouting. Then, what do? We end up getting married. Yes, he actually got on his knees and proposed to me. The entire situation was surreal. I said yes because I felt I had invested so much of my heart and time. We ended up getting married by a mobile minister. Romantic, right? Shortly after we married, I found out that he had not only cheated before my birthday, but he was cheating for 2 years with multiple escorts. He even cheated on me while visiting me. This I could not believe. I married him under the impression it was a one-time thing, and he had been doing it for 2 years. When confronted, he lied. When confronted with evidence, he would then say something lame like, "Okay," or "You're right." He continued to show no remorse or shame. I want to add that I have a background in private investigation and mad computer skills, and I was able to hack his account. Upon discovery, I found out that he had signed up for multiple sex sites. I would call the number, deepen my voice, and pretend to be him, and they would give me the name of the site. After putting together a list, I saw that he had signed up for sites before my surgery in 2016, before I was due to go to rehab for pain med addiction. He signed up for these sites at the most inappropriate times. It all seemed so heartless and cruel. I never saw this side of him as a friend, and he always seemed unapologetic. For an entire month, I confronted him, and he would gaslight me. During this time, I was on Suboxone, and thank God for that because it kept me somewhat afloat. However, I could not eat and lost weight, cried nonstop, and would lay in bed for days on end, not showering. I smelled really bad. I felt like offing myself. I had never had someone do to me what he did. However, the worst part was when I looked through his texts again, and he had complained about me to our mutual friends. He called me the Inquisition and bitched that I grilled him for hours. There was zero remorse. What's worse is he said I abused him and our friends believed him. Not only was he lying to me, he was lying about me. He took no responsibility for what he did. We ended up in couples counseling in the fall of 2018. His therapist convinced me to drop my own therapist because I would be spending time on the East Coast, and she wanted to see me and him separately in addition to together. So she was seeing him, me, then us together. Weekly, we saw her for 5 months where she instructed us to not look at pornography. She was very anti-porn. I kept my end of the bargain, but my gut instinct told me something was very wrong. I would cry and ask him if he was still doing things behind my back. I begged him to tell me the truth. Of course, he would say no, but my gut said otherwise. I began having full-blown anxiety attacks and started taking Xanax, which you are not supposed to do while on Suboxone. Also, before him, I had never taken so many benzos in my entire life, but it did calm me down. I decided to install spyware on his phone and his computer at work. Since he is in the computer security business, he discovered the spyware on his phone, but he did not know it was on his PC. A few days after Christmas, which ended up being quite lovely with tons of friends and catered food, I caved in to my guilty feelings and confessed what I had done. We drove to his office, and we were joking back and forth on the way there. When I went to retrieve the info from his PC, he suddenly began pacing nervously. I asked him why he was nervous, but he would not answer. And there it was. The entire 5 months he had lied, and was not only looking at porn half the day, nonstop, but looking up escort sites for women close to his office. And he has always had a type. Young and Asian. But what was more disturbing was the search terms he used for looking up porn videos. To name a few: sugar baby, Thai teen, barely legal, etc. It was always an older man dominating a desperate, barely legal-looking girl and paying her. I was so upset that I began yelling. I lost it. I felt like I was getting betrayed a third time. How did this person show zero fucking remorse? How could this person do this during therapy, especially when I kept my end of the bargain? His lame excuse was that he was using it as an escape from all the stress he felt during therapy. You see, our therapist was really abusive and narcissistic herself, and often berated me in front of him, and blamed me for his behavior, and said things that were inappropriate. She would talk about her own life, or comment on the way I dressed, which tends to be upscale and nice. She was a real bitch towards me, and he said that she was also a bitch to him during his individual session. This was his excuse. When I called the therapist to schedule an emergency session, she coldly said, "Well, my dear, he did say he was planning on leaving you a few weeks ago." Zero empathy. Just like him, I felt like I was losing my mind. Fast forward to now. A few days ago, I receive a letter from him stating that he felt we should separate. How could he send something like this before Christmas? This was after I confronted him about him possibly being a narcissist. He blocked my calls and emails and refuses to speak to me. We hadn't been getting along for most of 2019, and my best friend finally asked if he was an idiot savant because he either plays stupid or he plays like he is the victim. Either way, he is always helpless. I had found an old email from his last wife stating that she was tired of him being the victim. Their marriage ended when she refused to engage him in dialogue, and she completely stopped speaking to him. My best friend says that I am being emotionally abused and that I don't even know it. He sleeps with his phone in his pocket now, and his PC suddenly went kaput, and he had to build a new one. I used to be a happy-go-lucky person, and now I feel absolutely crazy. I used to trust my gut instinct, and now I feel like I am the crazy, uncaring, narcissistic one. He has me believing that I am in the wrong, and that I caused him to do this stuff. I know that is not rational. He has a new therapist, who I found for him, and he claims he is getting real help. But I am still bitter about what happened before, and feeling like he never was sorry. I find myself lashing out with random outbursts. What is more confusing is how can someone do such grand, loving gestures for someone and put them on a pedestal, yet do horrible things behind their back and blame them? He has never taken responsibility, and if he has, it feels like it was forced. It is hard for me to let go because I keep holding on to the image and memories of the times he was loving and giving. No one believes me because he is so generous to them, but the few friends he has happened to be on his payroll. I am in the middle of medical treatments to try to fix my chronic condition, and I will lose my health coverage once we divorce. I am not close to my family because my mother is an abuser and my father is a recovering alcoholic who has checked out from his children. My only brother is a heroin addict lost in his own world, and my grandparents are dead. I don't have anyone except friends, but most are residing opposite of me on the East Coast. I so desperately want a career, but my condition has me in the hospital several times a year. I do have enough saved to live comfortably for at least a year or two, but that is not factoring in health insurance premiums. I don't know what to do. Do I just play his game long enough until I am medically right, or do I not fight the divorce? Do I hose him in court and try to get as much as possible for all the suffering I feel he has caused? I will admit there is a part of me that wants to make this difficult for him. I saw how his ex made his life difficult, thus making me miserable too, and I can't believe he hasn't learned his lesson about cheating on women. BTW, he claims he is not a sex addict and claims various therapists told him he is not. I am someone who has always traveled alone and lived alone and never felt the need to shack up with someone out of fear of being alone. But I wonder if I am codependent now. I know what advice I would give to someone else, but I cannot seem to take it. I do love him and did give him my heart. But for him to do this before Christmas is the kind of cruelty I did not expect, even though he has done horrible things in the past. He has been through multiple therapists now, and he was even seeing a therapist while he was cheating on me. That is why it is hard for me to trust the process, and I don't know what to do about Christmas. For example, he finally spoke to me today, but made it about him. There is a current drama involving his cat who is dying unexpectedly, and while he rightfully deserves sympathy, there is a part of me that is thinking, here we go again. And I know that makes me sound cold and heartless, but it is always this way. I would like to know what is going to happen on Christmas, and this event arises. I know this makes me sound heartless, but you have to understand that every time it's crunch time, there is some drama unfolding on his part that makes him look like a victim. Is it simply time for me to let go of this person and proceed As if I am spending Christmas alone? I know many of you are asking, why would I even want to spend Christmas with someone like that? We had made elaborate plans that I was looking forward to the last few months, and I feel this bitter disappointment inside welling up all over again. I know this is self-centered, but when this becomes the norm and not the exception, you find yourself feeling devoid of compassion. And back to the question, does he sound like a narcissist? If so, why has he not been diagnosed yet? Why do the therapists keep giving him a pass? BTW, his childhood background is that his father abandoned him when he was 7, and his mother treated his sister better than him, thus neglecting him. He always complains that his sister was the golden child, and he hated his stepdads. I met his mom, and she does seem self-absorbed. She died last year. As for the cat, we have 6 together, and this one is fairly new, and I have not had time to get super attached to him yet. I feel more bad for the cat than I do him. Is it normal for me to feel this way? Maybe I just don't have any fucks left to give. And speaking of which, our sex life is virtually non-existent. Even in my previous, not-so-best relationships, the sex was still there. Please help. I am not able to see clearly here. Does he sound like a narcissist? And is my mistake in speaking to him as if he's normal and expecting normal?